Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video is going to try and summarise the main points about e-commerce. I've been asked to try and summarise everything in one video quite concisely, so I'm going to try and do that as best as I can, and hopefully you'll get the main information that you need about e-commerce. So we can define e-commerce as the use of electronic networks such as the internet to conduct commercial transactions. Now this is a massive definition. It can include all sorts of stuff. So it could include online purchases through an electronic shop front. For example, if you go on the Tesco website, for example, and just buy a product, that would be using a standard laptop or desktop. That would be an online purchase through an electronic shop front. You can have m-commerce, where you purchase something from your mobile using an app, for example. S-commerce is something I'm not terribly familiar with. It's the use of social media to sell goods and services. Apparently that's a very large growth area, but I'm not terribly present on social media, so I'm not entirely sure how that is working, but maybe you'll be more familiar with that than me. The transfer of funds. EPOS is electronic points of sale. Okay, maybe you've gone into the store and you've actually physically bought the product yourself, and you think that's nothing to do with e-commerce, but actually if you pay on a debit card and they put it into a machine, your bank is communicating with the store, and that's a form of e-commerce. PayPal systems similarly. And finally, electronic stock management systems have really revolutionized the way that stock management in organizations is done. So you don't have anyone anymore in a supermarket counting the number of tins of beans that they've got because it's all done electronically. The beans are scanned as they arrive from the supplier. They know how many beans there are in the shop, and then they're scanned out as they go through the till. And once you get to a certain level of inventory, an email will automatically be sent to the supplier to restock. So e-commerce is a massive area. It's quite difficult to try and summarize everything at once. It's a huge area of growth in recent years. But let's have a look at some of the advantages of e-commerce. So in terms of e-commerce, we can split the advantages into how it can increase revenues and also how it can cut costs. But let's have a look at how e-commerce can increase revenues. So back in the days before the internet, if I wanted to start a retail business, I could set up in a local high street, and maybe the size of my geographical market might be, people coming from 10 miles away or so to come and shop in my high street shop. With a website, of course, I can target consumers literally from around the world. Anyone can who has access to the internet should be able to access my website. Equally, this might be particularly useful if I'm selling a niche product, like puzzles or something like that. Maybe it's not going to appeal to that many people in the local area, but if I can target people around the world, there might be thousands of people. So I can exploit niche markets much easier with a website. Not only that, but e-commerce allows me to collect data on customers. I might ask them to create a profile when they make an order from me, and then I've got a record of the orders that they've made. That's going to allow me to much better improve my marketing, because I can target those customers with emails that relate to products that they've ordered in the past. Products can be more easily customized using e-commerce. Think about those sports retailers that allow you to put your name on a pair of trainers or select the color that you want and then order it. That customers are prepared to pay more for a customized product, and therefore it can increase revenue. And of course, we've got a 24/7 shop front. If we think back to my high street shop, it might have been open 9 till 5. These days, with a website, I can literally be taking orders from customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, using my website. E-commerce can also cut costs. So I can better target my advertising. So maybe in the past I'd have put an advert in a newspaper, and 95% of the readership of that newspaper might not have been interested in that advert. And how effective was that advertising spending? These days I can run an ad through Google. Say a customer does a search for a term that's related to my product. I can then get Google to pop up an advert next to them, and that person is much more likely to be interested in the advert that I'm running than the person just scanning through the newspaper. So my advertising can become much better targeted using e-commerce. Facebook have got the profile of their users, so you can target 16 to 18-year-old females in a particular geographical area using Facebook. The e-commerce can allow you to cut your running costs. So having a high street shop is very, very expensive. It costs a lot in rent. You need to pay people wages. If you can have like an out-of-town warehouse that doesn't need to look particularly nice, but it's a storage area where you can distribute your products from, that's much more efficient. You can have a big out-of-town warehouse, relatively low rent, and if you've got all your workers in one place, you can probably have fewer workers doing the same amount of work as if you had, say, 10 stores. So having e-commerce can cut your running costs dramatically. You're going to have access to more suppliers using e-commerce, because hopefully your suppliers have got websites, so you can compare prices from suppliers and drive down your costs further. In terms of that large geographical market that we're talking about, well, if you're selling more units, you benefit from economies of scale. You can bulk buy from your suppliers and drive down your unit costs. Maybe you'll be able to implement a just-in-time production system much easier. Because customers can customize their product, you can implement one of those pool production systems that we've talked about in just-in-time, where the consumer designs their product and you're not producing a load of things that you might not sell. So maybe you're going to experience less waste. And finally, some products are digitizable. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you look at books. Okay, so Amazon designed the Kindle and they've made books electronic. You can download a book from your Kindle instantly, whereas back in the day I would have had to have gone to the store to buy the book. In addition to that, books are heavy. They're made of paper, which is essentially wood, so they're quite high transport costs with books if you're transporting a lot at the same time. They also take up a lot of space. So you can cut storage costs, distribution costs, if you can digitize products. This has revolutionized some markets like books, music, think of iTunes, film and television, if you think of companies like Netflix. All of these things are now digitizable, when in the past it was a physical product, and that cuts storage and distribution costs dramatically, which is why the prices of these products have gone down. But what are the disadvantages, the costs of e-commerce? Well, you're going to need to make heavy investment in technology if you're going to use it suitably as a business. You may well need to train your staff. So, for example, a lot of staff who have previously worked in high street shops are now having to switch to being warehouse staff, because we're moving from a society where there's a lot of shops to maybe where people are shopping online more, and there is more need for those kind of distribution warehouses on the edge of towns, and the staff that go in there. Of course, you also need to train staff on website design and all the rest of it, so it can be very expensive. You need to invest in a distribution network, vans, etc. Maybe there are security costs to prevent hacking. So you need to keep your website and your customers' data very, very safe, or it can cause bad publicity. And finally, there's been increased levels of competition in particular markets as a result of e-commerce, making it easier for new entrants to come in. So overall, e-commerce it has reduced the barriers to entry in many markets as startup and running costs tend to be cheaper. So it's been easier for small businesses to gain foothold in some markets. So you could argue that this e-commerce has been very good for consumers. However, it could lead to long-run monopolies like Amazon. It's all very well saying Amazon have made books cheaper for people. In the long run, if all of the other book manufacturers go out of business, is that actually good news for customers? Probably not. In the retail market, many online businesses selling smaller, easily transportable goods have benefited. So people selling clothing online, etc., have they're relatively small goods, easy to transport. So that's been beneficial for them. However, in the service sector, maybe there has been a bit less impact. Okay, so you can't get a haircut online. You can't have a meal out set at home on your computer. Okay, those products require you to be there. Does that mean the service sector can't use e-commerce? Of course not. You can book tables online. You can book your hairdressing appointment online. So maybe the retail sector is more affected than the service sector. E-commerce has improved supply chain through stock management systems. And just in terms of the current context, there's a few things that spring to mind. The first is that the UK is very, very far ahead of certainly other European nations. I think we're one of the most prepared to use e-commerce in the world. Lots of transactions, the percentage of overall transactions is increased every year in the UK. And this is having a massive impact on the high street. You look in the last couple of days, I'm recording this in, it's May 2018, and, Carpetright, in the last couple of days, House of Fraser, Debenhams, all of these stores are having problems, and a lot of that is to do with e-commerce and people choosing to shop online. I heard somebody talk about how if retailers want to survive in the future, they have to do one of three things. Number one, they either have to have an online presence. Number two, they have to be a specialist shop that's going to encourage people to come to that shop. Or number three, they need to be part of one of those big kind of stores where it's not just shops, a Westfield or something like that, where there's also cinemas and restaurants, because people aren't just going out to shop anymore. They want an experience where maybe they do a bit of shopping, go for some food, and then go to some cinema. So e-commerce is having a massive impact on the UK economy at the moment. I hope that video has kind of simplified things, but there is an awful lot going on with this topic, and it's possible that it will come up. Sort of question could be discuss the extent to which e-commerce has benefited all businesses. That could be a potential question in any of the papers this year.